I was like, who do people listen to? And I was like, they listen to smart people. What do smart people have? And I said, they have glasses. So I got these big fake glasses and I wore them every day. And you know what people did? They listened. It worked. And again, on top of the no one listening to me, everyone would always just be like, oh, go get the social media girl. Dismissive. So I started to call myself the social media girl. And that became the whole thing. And I was the social media girl with my big fake glasses. And I was the social media girl with my big fake glasses getting paid by everybody because I was exactly what they thought of in their minds when they thought of social media.
Hi, folks. My name's Gene Lytle. I am your host for Revenue Playbook Chronicles. Thank you for watching. I have a special guest today. I have Cynthia Johnson. She is founder of the Academy of the Self. She is also an author of a book called Platform, The Art and Science of Personal Branding. And she's got a second book coming out, Think for Yourself and Act with Others. Cynthia, hi, how are you? Welcome. Where are you calling from?
Thank you so much for the introduction. I am calling from Laguna Niguel, California. So, it's pretty hot here today because my AC broke, but otherwise everything's wonderful.
Nice. Well, you are basically in my neck of the woods. I'm in Central California, but I've lived in Rancho Cucamonga most of my life. I was in San Diego this weekend at the race, so I kind of in a roundabout way passed you.
Yeah.
So perfect. I believe when we spoke that you have been doing, you were founder of the Academy of the Self for the last 10 years. Is that correct?
Yes. So it has recently become Academy of the Self, but the core purpose of personal branding and self-identity work is remained the same. Academy of the Self is the next evolution, the ebb and flow of us addressing market changes. So pretty excited about it.
How cool. How cool. I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more of that. But to start with, Cynthia, I would like to kind of learn your journey, kind of where you got started and how you have pivoted or kind of morphed into the position where you're at now. And maybe a little bit why, maybe there's some whys, why you went that direction. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay,
Sure.
it's all yours.
All right. Well, I don't know how far back we're going here, but I'm going to take you way back.
If you want to go back to where your first words, we can.
Okay. So,
or we could start your first job, I guess.
okay. So I don't ever remember not wanting to work, and not necessarily in the traditional sense. To give you an idea, I was homeschooled until 3rd grade, and when I started school, I sold sugar and Kool-Aid mix on the playground, and I got in a lot of trouble because apparently parents don't want their kids buying bags of sugar and Kool-Aid mixed together. And I was like, okay, I guess I won't sell things. And I remember very vividly because this was in Colorado. I must have been 4th grade, and it was like, I can't sell things, but the Super Bowl was coming up, so I was like, well, I took bets on the Super Bowl and I got a lot of trouble. Apparently that's not allowed.
Oh my gosh.
And so, it was I just remember my mom being like, what? Like, what actually is happening? And I had several business ventures as a child out that everything from asking my, younger sister to sell rocks on the side of the road to, it's lots of things.
Oh my gosh. Entrepreneur by heart.
Yeah, I guess so. I didn't have the words for it back then, but now that I have the words for it, it almost feels less like me, but it's okay. Yeah, so I started doing that when I was really young, and we moved around quite a bit. But when I finally did settle, I went to high school outside of Las Vegas. I worked a ton of jobs. I consider myself a proud quitter. So I had very, very odd natural instincts around work, and one of them being I should be paid the moment I step foot outside the house, like not when I get there, not when I'm like the moment my foot steps outside of my world and into yours, like I want to get paid for that. And these were all fascinating ideas that nobody wanted to hear from me.
Right.
I worked as I worked as a lifeguard. I worked at a Cold Stone Creamery, which was I don't know if you know Cold Stone, but they sing for their tips. So singing for $1 was not for me. I was like, this is absurd. And then I actually taught theater my senior year to freshmen and at my high school. So that was a really interesting experience to be the teacher and the student.
Oh, I
And
bet.
yeah, and sort of always had this need to like bend the rules, not break the rules, just bend them. See how strong they really were. And I remember after the high school, I actually became a hypnotist assistant in Las Vegas. And these are like true stories. Wild, I know,
I
but
bet you have so many stories within those stories that could be amazing.
it's yeah, so true. So yeah, I was a hypnotist assistant. I did a little stint. I modeled Carrot Top's t-shirts, which they are not cute t-shirts because, he's like, it's just awful. And then I became his marketing manager at one point, and I was 17 or 18. And so I always kind of found my way back into this, like taking the most ridiculous ideas and making them real in some way. But working for Hypnotist was really fun. That was an experience because you're getting people on vacation, you're getting them in this like skeptical place. Is it real? Is it not? And I still don't know. But
Did you start learning how to perform becoming a hypnotist or anything like that?
no, actually, I didn't because my grandfather used to hypnotize people way back in the day. This is long before my time, and he was very much adamant about not doing it. And I just basically did whatever my grandfather told me to do. Sort of. Again, I bend the rules, right? So I would work for a hypnotist, but I wouldn't become one.
Okay,
Just
perfect.
close enough. Just so he's like make sure he's paying attention. But yeah, so I didn't learn it, but I do know that outside of the show, there was a lot of work for the hypnotist on his own, working with police and working with people with addiction. Like, so there were definitely applications that I saw
Right.
people benefit from. And yeah, that's what I did after after high school. My poor mother. And then I decided to move to Miami. Well, first I went to art school and got my first iPod, which I think everyone got their first iPod. And they were like, "You're gonna bring your files back here on this." And we were like, "We didn't get it. Like, we just did not get it, right?" And I learned at art school that I have no interest in being like an artist that draws. So, and that cost me like $5,000. And
Oh no.
yeah, and by the way, my mom, like in my life, I pay for my mistakes. So just put that out there.
Well, I was just going to ask you, it's like growing up as a child, your folks had to be kind of trying to figure you out all the different things that you were interested on doing. I mean, did they have anything to say about it, or did they just encourage it, or how did that go?
I come from a long line of people like me. So,
Okay, they're
it's
used to
like
it.
half of them are, they're like, think they're outlaws, and the other half of them are like politicians. I don't know. It's everybody wants to do their own thing. And I'm also the oldest of six. So
Oh, okay.
I just set the bar.
Right. You influenced us five other people that they might be worried about.
Right, exactly. So after I quit art school, I moved to Miami to I promoted like these nightclub shows for like a few months. It was really bad. And my mom did not want me there. Long story short, I left. I worked for like Ocean Drive magazine. It was very fun. And it sounds like I was partying, but I wasn't, because I've always been like the person. Like, I really wanted to figure out how the stuff worked. I wasn't there to party. Like, I could party anywhere. I was never.
Research. It was
Yes, but I was
research.
yeah, exactly, and I was never interested in party, and I think that was, like, throwing people off because, like,
Right.
why would I be there? But no, I was like, people are showing up for this. I wanna know what's up, like, what's going on? Like, I wanna get close. And, but I thought, this environment is not for me, and I came back, and I remember sitting my mom down and being very serious and telling her that, I'm back, and it's great, and discovered my new passion. I was going to become a stunt choreographer, and I was moving to Hollywood. And I remember she just like teared up. She's like, "I'm going to prove to you the world isn't scary, mom," And So then I moved to Hollywood and I became a certified stunt choreographer in all various hand-to-hand combat and rapier, dagger, knife, broadsword.
Wow.
Yes.
So
Learned
you don't
phonetics.
want anyone to mess with you then.
Yeah. Well, that's actually true. I was kidding. But I actually ended up graduating from that school in 2008, where it's very hard to get into stunt choreography. Very hard. Meaning like nobody really wants a new person swinging a broadsword at their head
Right.
without some experience, right? So I
So plus what the market at 2008 also, they weren't making a lot of films, were they, in 2008?
No, and a lot of the agencies, because of the economic crisis that was going on, they were actually firing people and merging, not taking on new talent. So then I went to work for my agent. I became a talent agent assistant. And
Nice.
yeah, yes. And then I went back to school for Mandarin and business and started taking advantage of the economic crisis in a new way. And I was just flying back and forth to China all the time because I needed, obviously, market research is a big part of I exist in the world.
Hey, we know you're good at research already, so that's perfect.
And at this point, my mom was like used to it, probably. Yeah, she maybe not. But I did lose my phone once in China. Oof, that was a hard one for her. I thought she was used to it, and she wasn't. But I went back and I went there for the World Expo, and we saw the Olympics. Did a lot of back and forth because I was going to open nightclubs in China. That was my thing. Again, this is a really long journey to where we're headed. So
No, we're
it
good.
will come full circle. So if you want to stop, you
We
need me
got
to
plenty of
slow.
time. I love it.
Okay.
I mean, you got me on my seat going, wow, how is she going to get to where she's going to go? She's so far over here.
Truthfully, I think I've gotten a little better. I'm not sure if we all evolve and change, but I really loved novelty. Like it was so, I'm like, tell me I can't, just please. And
Right.
so go back to school and I'm studying business and Mandarin. And I remember I went back. Yes. So then I was terrible agent's assistant because first of all, that job is awful. Like you work
Now, you
so
say
much.
you were terrible. Was that because you felt like that or they told you that?
No, it was both. So I remember
Okay.
it was one of those things where they liked me. So I sort of became the personality hire.
Okay.
Like we're not, I remember the guy who ran the company, he came up to me. He's my job, I had to wipe the mirrors down. And he was like, do you not know how to wipe mirrors down? And I said, if I tell you no, will you never ask me to do it again? He goes, no. Like what? We're still, friends to this day. But I left and I joined a startup music like A&R company. And I started working with bands and musicians, and that doesn't pay very much. So on the side, I learned coins, and I was buying and selling coins
Wow.
to pay for school, which is a fascinating world to explore. But the moment I learned that money could be worth more than the money says it's worth,
Right.
very interested. I was like, this is fascinating too. So I would do the music shows, and then on the weekends I would go to these like really weird coin shows at like a Dollar Tree or Holiday Inn or something,
Right.
And then I was like, okay, I was about to like kind of graduate. I'm just going to tell you everything. Like I needed to go. I could not pass statistics. Okay. To save my life.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, everything from like the traffic would stop me from getting there. Something was wrong with the universe and me. And so I had to figure out where I could get a business degree, where I could finish my degree without taking statistics. That was my new plan. I was just not going to do it. And I ended up at Colorado State University.
So my wife would be right there with you. Statistics was the worst thing for her. Absolutely.
Yes. And now, like, I kind of find it fascinating. But back then, there was no way. It wasn't the right time. So I was graduating, but I needed to have an internship. That was sort of like the trade-off. So I applied for this internship, and it said Asian markets. It was a very vague job description. So because I'm learning Mandarin, I was like, this is probably going to be great. downtown Los Angeles, and the interview is at the top of the US Bank Tower. Now,
Oh boy.
that is the tallest building west of the Mississippi. It's also $45 a day to park. So okay, I'm like, come on, guys. I realize where it is, and I immediately go, yeah, they're not going to hire me. This is insane. I get there. Everyone's Japanese. The market is Japanese. I don't speak Japanese. I speak Mandarin. I'm immediately like, they're not going to hire me. This is whatever. So I go in and I interview with the boss, and I'm in a hurry because my car is just raking up the cost downstairs. And he goes, he's like, well, let me tell you about this website that, the company managed websites. And I said, no need. I've already been on it. Cause I'm like, let's hurry this up. We're not going to go anywhere. Right. Well, turns out he thought I was the only person that went to the website, but they had actually not put the website on the job posting. And I got the job because I later found out I was the only person who apparently took the time to look at the website.
Wow.
I was like, that's how you know you're supposed to be there, right? So I joined. I went to this, and I joined, and I managed a U.S. political website that was owned by a Japanese company in downtown Los Angeles at the top of the U.S. Bank Tower.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, fascinating stuff.
So how was that? Was that rough for you? I mean, first of all, the language. I would imagine it's not easy to learn Mandarin, but now you're at a Japanese firm. How much of that did you have to get through? You know what I mean? There had to be some language issues there, right?
Definitely were. And the whole thing was really wild. There were, but they would mostly speak English. And if they didn't, we would get notes. And they're a highly efficient organization that was owned by, you're going to start to think I'm the problem, but I'll tell you all the.
I am writing notes. I am taking notes here.
So yes, it was a small team. And I remember I was supposed to blog, and I was, and I created a Twitter account because my job, so the website was basically all like Republicans, because there's a very big difference between how the two parties use online tools. And that hasn't really shifted. So when it comes to the forums, Republicans use forums more. So they were like, you have to go get the Democrats on the website. Okay. Now, my grandfather was hilarious. And he was also at this time a Republican. Now he was a mayor. He did run as a Democrat, like call him a fair weather politician. But but no, so I knew he was going to find me on Twitter. He was going to see this stuff. And it became this sort of background noise in our relationship. But I created a Twitter account, and that was what I did. And as time went on, I created a campaign. They were like, well, we need to drive people. And I was looking for scholarships at the time. So I was like, oh, why don't we just offer a scholarship? Fastweb's got like tons of people going there. And it spiked the traffic. It went up like, it was like ridiculous. It was like 2,500% or something, like overnight traffic change, because now we're offering $10,000, like whatever, right? And the entire concept was live citizen journalism. Boy, that was happening. When that happened, they were like, you know what, you're really good at this. We have this other website you should come work for. And this was the first ever live streaming teen website.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. They're like, we're going to give you $36,000 a year. And when I live in LA, I'm like, okay. So I took $36,000 out of your job. Fascinating, right?
Right.
I liked the job, but I did not like the cubicle. I went from the top floor, because it was like the interns and the lawyer got the top floor of the US Bank Tower, to the building next door in a cubicle, surrounded by engineers. Nobody wanted to talk about anything ever.
You can't bend rules in a cubicle.
I was like, this is too much. Actually, you can. I had to sit in front of my boss's cubicle because he was like, I don't think you're actually doing anything. So I'm like, I'm the personality hire, okay? This place needs some sprucing.
Some life.
But we used to get to go to concerts and live stream them. And I got to see what it was like to work on the platform side of these social media websites, which was very cool. But when I first started, I was like, no, cubicle, can't do it. So I decided I was going to use the job, save up a bunch of money so that I could sell everything I own and go backpacking. So that's what I did. But then like halfway through, I was like, man, I really kind of like this job. So what am I going to do? So I remember I called my mom, and I just said like, hey, this is really a big bummer, but I have to quit, because if I can't keep promise to myself, like who can I keep a promise to? And she goes, don't quit. Just ask for the time off. And I said, okay, you're insane. And I just hung up. I was like, I'm done talking to you. And then I went in and I told my boss, like, hey, can we talk? And he's like, sure. I went in there and it's like, what's going on? Same, by the way, same boss that from different, it's like really cool guy from Japan who was like in a rock band on the side. And I just blurted out, I said, I need some time off. And he goes, how much time? And I said, 6 to 7 months. He's like, And he got up and he walked out and he came back. He said, look, if you leave this company, our policies, we can't have you back. That's just the policy. He said, but we can pay you a stipend while you're gone. He never asked me where I was going. He never asked me what I was doing. He said, you can post a couple times for us. And when you're back, you will have, like a job basically. And I said, oh, okay. Sounds good. So then I got a laptop and a VPN and I sold all my stuff and I left. And
okay, wait, before you go there, what inspired you to where you're going to go on this camping trip or hiking trip, or where did that come from? And what was your goal? I know research. I already can tell that you're doing research here, but what inspired you to go do this?
The cubicle made me feel very trapped in like a physical space. So I needed more space. And my thinking was that I'd have lots of space out in the world, instead of trapped inside of one, kind of was the...
Were you searching for something?
No, actually, like it wasn't searching for something. That's a great question. I think I was concerned that I was putting myself into a life that wasn't for me, because how could I possibly know, and how could I possibly overlook the fact that the physical environment wasn't really meant for me? Like I could feel that. Now the work was great, and it wasn't until later that I realized I could change the environment. Like I could, as an intern, entry-level employee, actually have an impact on the environment itself. I can get into that later. Those are but there, and then I thought, well, there's so much world to see, right? And like, how do I know? And we all come from, immigrant families to some degree. And I remember thinking, like, some of these places I may not be able to go someday because of whatever happens in the world, or and I said, but right now I can. It's like, and I feel like I could come back and make $36,000 a year somewhere else. I don't know, maybe it's just me,
right?
But so yeah, I guess that was my youth. Was very much, I would feel like something wasn't right and I would just change it. I wasn't really searching for as much as I was just like very good at recognizing what wasn't for me, and that changes too.
This isn't what I want to do forever. I'm on the hunt for what I do want to do. I'm still on that hunt, trying to figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up.
Yeah, and you know what I want to do? I want to do whatever makes me feel like, connected to the people around me, connected to myself, not necessarily happy, but like feeling something at all. And the cubicle will suck the feeling right out of the room.
Right.
It was like everything was brown too, because it was like so 1980s, and I'm sure it was filled with asbestos and like, who knows. My lunch cost more than like my hourly rate. It was just, you should never work for less than a salad an hour. You know what I mean by that?
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, that should be how we measure the economy. But yeah,
I'm writing that down because I'm right there with you. The salad an hour, I might be there.
Like, we're measuring meetings by one pizza. Like, how many salads an hour are you working? Yeah. So I left, and at that point, I lived so many lives. I went into New Zealand, and when I was there, I remember. So I had built this Twitter account because of this company, right? I had to get the Democrats over. Remember that whole thing? Okay. Right. So look at that. I had like 1,000 followers. Well, all of a sudden, everyone was refunding my trips. Like, hotels were free, food was free, as long as I would tweet about it.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, so wait a second, this is a whole other kind of economy. And, I built that following on Twitter to over like 1.3 million people. And
from 1,000 to 1.3 million.
Yeah. And I got a lot of like really incredible experiences from it. And then I was like, man, this laptop in this, like, I can do this. This is great. It felt like a new kind of capacity. Like, just all of a sudden, I was, space is probably going to sound like a big theme in here. I did not like feeling tied to a place or a system or physical location. And that even goes back to, why am I not paid the moment I leave the house? Like, why? Like, I don't want to be on your time, but on my dollar. Like, no. And also,
Right.
the drive to work is the least safe part. Like, that's where you're most likely to get in. Like, you should have to insure me. Like, I just I wanted all the things. Okay, like, none of this made sense to me. And so that, yeah, I did that, and then I would help hostels set up their like Google Plus profiles and do all the things. And when I came back finally, I owned nothing but a backpack, a Macy's credit card, and I had two jobs. Like, so I would go to work. I would take the subway, and if you know anything about LA, that's actually the bravest thing I've ever done.
Right.
And every day, I'd take the subway downtown. I would go to work, and then on my way home, I would go to Macy's and I would buy a new outfit for the next day. And then that's how I worked. And I was like renting a room from this guy. I did the whole thing. Dude, I was never gonna have a car again. I was like, yeah, I was gonna be that didn't last long because you do have to have a car in Los Angeles. It's pretty impossible to
Right.
get around. Because after that company shut down, and it did, I took a job in Santa Monica, and the drive was like 2.5 hours each way from where I was living.
Oh
So,
no.
and again, I don't like to be tied to these things. So we quit. But when the company went under, so I came back, I had the job, I worked the job, and I was like trying to get people to listen to me. And I'm in these board meetings, and no one's listening to me. So I was like, who do people listen to? And I was like, they listen to smart people. What do smart people have? And I said, they have glasses. So I got these big, fake glasses. I'm talking like big. And I wore them every day. And you know what people did? They listened.
Did they really? Just for the
Mhm.
glasses?
Half the time they were just wondering if they were real.
These aren't working.
Yeah.
I need to get bigger ones.
Well, I mean, I could just sense the who does she think she is on their faces. Like these are clearly not real glasses. Like they were definitely not real. But it worked. And again, on top of the no one listening to me, everyone would always just be like, oh, go get the social media girl. Dismissive. So I started to call myself the social media girl, and that became the whole thing. And I was the social media girl with my big fake glasses. And I was the social media girl with my big fake glasses getting paid by everybody because I was exactly what they thought of in their minds when they thought of social media. But yeah, so then when that company closed, I was going to start my own agency. And then someone I went to high school with in another state saw that I posted that, was looking for clients. And he said, I work in Santa Monica now, and I work at an SEO agency, and we're hiring for that exact role. I was like, Santa Monica? Oof. And then SEO? Oof. Also, this guy graduated early. Like, he was not a dummy.
Right.
I'm like, this is going to be a really hard job. But I'm going to go. So I remember that I went to this like decrepit building that was apparently going to be torn down and turned into a hotel later, but they were renting office in the meantime. They were late, the guy and the boss. And the guy who's the boss, right, his name is Abilash. And I was like, see, this guy's going to be, he went to UCLA. I was like, this is going to be so intense, He walked in like a child, like a
Oh my gosh.
fumbling little kid. And he was like, I'm sorry I'm late, but I mean, not really, obviously you're going to wait. Like, and he was just like saying
Oh my gosh.
the quiet part out loud, like on repeat. And he kept saying
Like the
like,
stuff you're not supposed to say
oh
that
my
you
God,
do.
yes, I loved it. Like, I loved it. When I tell you that I loved it, I was like, this is everything right now. And he goes, so let me ask you a question. He's like, how do you feel about addiction? And I went, not good. Like, I don't feel very good about it. And he's like, good. He's like, we work mostly with addiction recovery companies. And I was like, okay. I was like, as long as we both don't feel good about it, right? I mean, not
Right.
the work, but the addiction part. And then he was like, look, I'm going to offer you a job. Well, but I'm still considering, but but I'm going to make an offer. So you probably should just so conflicted and everything. And it was wonderful. So he offers me the job.
Did he take it back right away?
First of all, he looks at my resume and like the companies have like all closed down. And he's
Oh
like,
no.
and he looks at me, he's like, is it because of you? Like, is this it's like a you thing? And he was like, just kidding. And I was like, no, you're not. And he was like, no,
Right.
you know, like, so I start, and I'm the fourth like employee at this agency, and we all share a conference table. I'm the only girl. They clearly have not been told I'm coming. Okay, like they could have been sitting in their underwear at this. Like that's how like disgustingly manly this environment was.
Oh
Like
my gosh.
it smelled like a locker room. It was just like so much. And I go in and I remember like he's like, oh, your laptop's too small. He buys me a new laptop. I'm like, amazing. He's like, oh yeah, here's an Equinox gym membership. I'm like, oh my God, it's great, right? And he's like, but I take the personal training sessions. I'm like, okay, you know, like fair. And then he goes, but you need to figure out what you do here.
Oh no.
What?
I travel.
Like wait, sorry. He's like, yeah, you need to figure out what you do here. I'm like, okay. Then I remember vividly, he like got a Tesla and he goes, you can come. I need to see how far this can go. And there's a conference in San Diego. He's like, you come with me because you don't really do anything yet. And like, so I created my own department. I figured out how to sell, you know, social media to addiction treatment centers, which by the way, was not easy. This is like 2013. Nobody's talking about their feelings or their addictions yet. You know, like Meteorol Peace had not shot the shot. He didn't say the thing. And so it was just, it was complicated, but I remember I figured it out. And this person, he was so interesting. I remember he brought someone in. He was like, they want to work with us, and I was like, great. I was like, sell them. And then the guy he's like, I want to pay this much, and he was like, cost this much. So I'm going back and forth. It's like my first sale, right? Finally, the guy, he's like, he offers, you know, for me to work on the side, and I'm like, no, I just work here, you know. And finally, he agrees to pay the amount, right? So I forward the whole email thread. I'm like, hey, he agreed. When I tell you, this guy blew up this guy. He was like, you're trying to hire my people on the side. He gave everyone $1,000 bonus because I told the truth. And I was like, I can work for you forever and I can't work for anyone. So this is going to be, it'll be a wild ride. Within 2 years, I was partner at that agency, and we had, along with our sister company, sold to a public behavioral health company. And I was part of my first acquisition deal.
Congrats. Great job.
Yeah. And you know, I was like, oh, I found my kind of person, or like my kind of people, where they just leave you alone, expect a lot from you, and it somehow, you know, works out. And at that point I had been speaking at a lot of conferences because nobody really spoke about having the boring job in social media and SEO. They talked about the cool jobs. And I ended up in my first panel with a guy who wrote a book about SEO. The first year social media was allowed at this SEO conference, and another guy who was like the editor of an SEO magazine, to talk about the exact same topic back to back. So we all got the same topic and we all have to present back to back. So I go, and this guy, one of these people, he says to me, I said, oh, I'm so nervous, like my first time, you know? And he says, well, what are you worried about? You just have to stand up there and look pretty. We actually have to have good content.
Oh my gosh, he did not.
I know. That was not the right move for him. So I spent the rest of the day getting in touch with SlideShare, because after the conference, I knew, because I worked at one of these companies. I know what it's like to work on a social media platform. These people are more available than you think. And I also knew that they hand off jobs like highlighting the slides to the interns, because I was that intern. And after the conference, everyone was required to upload their slides to SlideShare. So I asked this person at SlideShare if once I uploaded them, they would feature them. And they were like, yeah. And my slides became the most downloaded slides at the conference. And that was my speaking career just took off.
Very nice.
So
you didn't have to worry about looking pretty for that guy. Did you slap that guy in the head, or what? Did you ever have to see him again?
Huh? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're listening, no, he knows.
There you go.
We have a silent understanding that, you know, that's still a pretty small world at the end of the day.
Oh, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
So great job in that. So what happened next?
Yes. Okay. So then I went to work after the acquisition for this publicly traded company, right? And, you know, our sister company owned a bunch of websites like rehabs.com and, you know, all these things. And so we had to merge about 60 people in marketing and engineering in San Diego, with 15 people in Santa Monica, and then like 35-ish in Nashville. And so I took over a role of director of brand development. So I was overseeing social media, the content, alumni, like just the brand direction. Okay. And the CMO came in town for the first time to meet the team. And I remember I walked into my boss's office and he was like staring at the wall. Because I should mention, I took a stock agreement. Like, yeah. So, and that is when I found out that we had become the first company in history to be indicted for murder in the state of California, and that Kamala Harris herself, the attorney general at the time, was the one who indicted us. And it was a real fun game of watching a house burn that you thought you were going to live in. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was like this very, and I can't quit, you know, and they can't really fire me. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, what? And it happened because they had acquired a property. And yes, that happened. And
so does that totally change the focus to where it's now reputation management versus SEO? Or
well, I'm glad you asked. That's exactly why they bought us. So on top of all of this, they knew that this was coming, which is what the acquisition was about. And okay, go ahead there. Okay. Well, do apologize. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, one sec. Yeah, sorry about that. But yes,
You're good.
So, but that's actually how I got into personal branding, because when you're given the role of the branding person, but you can't talk about the brand. Well, we had a lot of really amazing people. And a lot of these people had their own recovery stories and their own realities and and like the actual work that was being done. The reason it was indicted in the first place now is because we were the first publicly traded company in the category. And if you know anything, which I'm sure you do, about the stock market, you know, being first isn't exactly the best position to be. And some kid, I say kid, intern, because this is like basically my story reflected back at me. But he discovered us while interning at some hedge fund, and we also became the most shorted stock on Wall Street and in its history.
Wow!
So that was fun, but the people were still there, and they were still really great, and they were still doing really great work. And we went through, I think, like 8 acquisitions and 3 de novo projects in the 18 months I was there. You know, and I thought, you know what, they can force me to be here and they can force me to be in this situation, but they cannot force me to be quiet about it. And so I started talking a lot about, you know, what happens when this kind of thing happens to you. And I spoke at Stanford, and I spoke at because it is a pretty incredible story. And so then I quit. And I remember it was December, and I quit, started a business, got a book deal, turned 30, and got engaged in the same like week.
Oh my gosh. Total turnaround.
My entire life changed just overnight. I mean, wild stuff. And yeah, so wild. That is, I make it stop there if you have any questions.
So what I want to know is a little bit tell me about the book. Okay. And I believe you got a second one coming. Mm-hmm. And then tell me what's next for you.
Yeah. So the book, so ironically, I had so many views on my slide shares that an agent reached out to me a couple years earlier and asked me if I wanted to write a book. Again, goes back to that. And I was like, no, I'm not ready. And then I was like, you know what, I'm ready. And I put a proposal together, and we had an offer, an imprint from Penguin Random House within a week. And they offered me over $100,000 to write it. And so obviously I was going to write it.
Right, of course.
And then all of a sudden,
it's more than a salad. It's more than a salad.
I was like, finally, I could buy a franchise. I mean, no, you know, that's how it felt, obviously, at the time. But so then the art and science of personal branding, and the book was for normal people to understand that sometimes the thing between them and the next opportunity is that no one has shed a light, right? And that we hire people and we see them as the version we hired forever. And if you're not advocating for yourself, you're not speaking up for yourself, and there's a bunch of ways to do it, then you're only known as this past version of you, which is a very frustrating experience, because our personal brands are never going to move as quickly as our identities as quickly, and and so on. So that's who the book was for, is real people. And actually that was really, I'm just really proud of that a book, and it opened quite a few doors. We helped Walmart build out their associate and employee branding campaigns, and just like it, it was a really wonderful challenging experience. I think I don't know, like sometimes I wonder, well, because every moment seems to lead to another moment that is bigger, and it's like, oh, that's what that was. But I don't know if the older me's got it in her to keep going. These ups and downs. Yes. So, and as the market's shifting, the second book is that we went through COVID, and we all came out with a large portion of us in two buckets: stuck and burnt out. Sometimes both, sometimes one or the other, right? And I remember thinking like, okay, well, being stuck was putting yourself out there, building, your brand, but what is burnout? Like, what is that really? And that's when I realized it was this idea of like identity hijacking, where all of a sudden our thoughts were everyone else's, where we have sort of like reversed how we're supposed to interact. And that's where think for yourself, act with others, and in that order came out, because we should be thinking for ourselves and then testing those thoughts in reality and pressure testing them against the real world. And we can't do that alone. We need to interact. And I don't think community is going to save us. And I don't think individuality is going to help us. But I think a healthy balance of the two, it is exactly the kind of world I want to live in. I like healthy conflict. I do. I like someone to challenge me. And we do really hope that the book will inspire people to not be afraid to disagree, but also not fear being wrong. Or is there a wrong? But to be challenged, right? Because being challenged doesn't mean you're worth less. Being challenged in itself means you're worth something, because someone's feeding energy into you and saying like, I'm going to challenge this person because they believe you can get other people to listen to you. So
Nice.
So yeah, that's the point of the book. And I have a co-author who is the director of counseling at TCU, Texas Christian University, and the president of the National Collegiate Counselors Association for Mental Health. And so he's helping to validate some of so that I don't send it. I'm not a therapist or anything, but so I want to be caution when you get into the identity world. Yeah. So,
yeah.
So that's
so where can someone get the book? So
the first book, you can get it at cynthialive.com is my website, and wherever books are sold. So Amazon, all those places. And then the new book, when it comes out in April of 2027, same thing. It'll be on all the platforms. Perfect. Yeah. So I'm willing to say that you probably don't know what's next for Cynthia at this time. It's like you said, one thing creates another thing, and who knows where it's going to take you, right? Yes, definitely. I think that my next thinking is, if in a world where AI can be anything but you, maybe helping people figure out how to be a little bit more themselves, because the new edge is going to be knowing you have one. Right. That makes sense. Now, is AI changing anything that you're doing now, or is it just giving you more, more things to talk about? Because like you said, you can't trust anything you see anymore, and probably anything you hear anymore, because of AI. So people's identity isn't what is you can see, you know what I mean, for real. So how does that affect what you're doing? So to be honest, what it does is it changes the application, because AI is a force multiplier, but only if it's given direction. If you expect it to give you direction, and it becomes a black hole. You become the common denominator. And so that's where we've shifted from, let's go be visible as the goal, right? Visibility is the goal. No, visibility is the outcome. And the outcome of a self-directed identity made visible for other people, because this new world is going to ask you to prove you are who you say you are, not present yourself. And because everyone's already being presented. So it's the inverse. And that's why we've moved into education, licensing, and also a hybrid cohort model where you're with other people, because we believe in the pressure test, but you also are going through your own process. AI can do everything else. You just need to tell it where to go. And in order to tell it where to go, you need to give it direction. And who does that? Where does that come from? Identity doesn't give direction. Identity is the outcome of direction. So if identity isn't the thing, then identifying isn't the answer. The self is. And that's where we have to get back to, is I am going to come in and carry all the weight that I am in a room, and I'm going to make everyone else adjust around me, right? Like, I'm going to carry that weight and I'm going to test it, and I'm going to be available to being tested in that process. Because if we start to outsource our self and our worth, then we're being used by AI. We're not using it. And the self only stops being a tool, from my perspective, when it asks what it's being used for. And
Very well said.
That's what we want. We want thinkers.
Yeah, exactly. Critical thinkers. Very nice. Man, we've gone so many different ways.
No, I haven't done this one. I haven't gone this journey, in a minute.
It's amazing. It absolutely is amazing. So let's say our listeners got confused. They're trying to figure out where we started, where we stopped, and they just may need to listen again. But if there was one thing that you wanted, one message that you wanted to give to our listeners, that if they leave with nothing else but this message, what would you want it to be?
The message that I hope everyone can take away from this is that if being useful is no longer what human value is, right? So being useful, showing up, doing this very specific job, right? Then being you from your seat and your perspective is. So it's not what you can do anymore. It's what and how you see the world. And that perspective is the key to surviving this next, what do we call, like a revolution world, like a engineering, work revolution.
AI revolution, maybe?
That's right. AI revolution. Or before that, it was like trains and automotion and, the history. So the greatest asset you have from now on really is not what you can do, but it is what you see and how you feel about it. Because perspective is the one thing AI can't do.
That is true. I like what you said earlier about AI could be good, but you have to tell it what to do and control it, and not let it control you.
Yes. Same with social media, right? Is that if people will build their brands on social media, and it becomes a second full-time job. And all of a sudden you work for LinkedIn. No, LinkedIn should work for you. And by the way, if I can find a hack that gets me to my goal faster, you should build a better platform. You're not the government. Like, you want us to use it a certain way? Build it that way. Like, my job is to figure this out for my use, right? Your job is to figure it out so I can't do that, if that's what you're trying to avoid. Like, these platforms, they are not the law.
You know what, though? It goes right back to what we first started, bending the rules.
Yeah.
I love it.
Pay me a salary at LinkedIn if you want me to work for you. But in the meantime, I'm going to go work for myself, and your platform is going to offer an opportunity to do that in a unique way. And if you see the opportunity, because that's the perspective you have, you are not breaking the law. You'll know if you are, I'm hoping, but just, using LinkedIn in a way that benefits you a little bit more is not breaking the law. They're not the government, you're not going to get in trouble in the way you think you are. So just the reframing around, you don't have, if you're doing what everyone else is doing on these platforms, AI included, most likely you're getting nothing out of it, because you know what I mean? It's just, you're standing in line.
Right. Exactly. A day at Disneyland.
Yeah. Measure against your own expectations.
Well said.
No.
Awesome. Thank you, Cynthia. You have been awesome. I know that there are some other gems in those stories that we could probably take at another time. So be on.
We're asking to go so far back. It used to be easy to go far back. Now I'm like, it gets really far.
Right.
I got to write down.
There you go. Yes. But thank you again. It's been a pleasure. We had a lot of fun. And folks, thank you for watching another episode of Revenue Playbook Chronicles. I'm your host. If you liked our content, please like, share, subscribe, whatever button you have there. go and check out Cynthia's book, and I'll be excited. You said the book is coming out in April, the second one?
Yes, April
Yes.
27th.
That one will be called Think for Yourself, Act with Others. I am definitely going to read this first one because my boss had always told me, build your brand, build your brand. And it makes a lot of sense. So they don't see you as the original person that they hired. I love that. So again, thank you so much. We'll talk to you again, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks so much.